Oh, do I have a story for you? You are going to love this one. Now, I've been cornered countless times by people who recognize me at Whole Foods or at a bar mitzvah party or something. And when I hear that, I know two things. First, I'm sure they do have a really good story. And second, they've already ruined it, and they haven't even told it to me. The reason? There's just no humility present. They've made an assumption that their story is nothing more than a composition. But when you tell a story orally, it is so much more than that. It's a moment. It's a moment that exists between a teller and their listeners. And until that moment occurs, they couldn't possibly know if that story is great. I have to relate to them and their story in that moment if I'm going to love it. But in that moment at Whole Foods or at that bar mitzvah party, when they've already taken my role out of the storytelling relationship, I'm having a hard time relating to them. So today's tip is all about relatability. Now, relatability in storytelling is when a person shares a story and the listener can see themselves in that story and in that person, in that teller. Like, for example, when you read or hear a story, you might be able to connect to the situation or the characters or their decision-making rationale. But when somebody tells you a story out loud, you're also trying to see yourself in the person who is present telling you the story. And what most people don't understand is that what we are always looking for is something authentic and honest and even vulnerable. So when someone strides up to the stage all confident and cool and tells a slick and polished story where they pause for laughter even before the first audible laugh, it can be hard to connect to that person. But when someone lets you in, this is what can happen.
I rolled over in bed, pregnant again, and I realized he wasn't there. And I hadn't heard him get up. I couldn't hear him downstairs. So I checked an app on my phone to see when the door had been opened, and it was 3 o'clock. The door was opened at 1, and he hadn't come back. About 30 minutes later, he came home. Where were you? Well, I was feeling really anxious, and I had to go drive and clear my mind. What? I'm thinking, what the fuck? Was there someone else? Over and over, this started happening. Was he stepping out? I don't know.
This is Brittany Alexander from a story she told on June 17th, 2017. And I would suggest that this performance is relatable on so many fronts. First, whether or not we've experienced this situation, we could still relate to it, to the fear, to the insecurity, to the suspicions, and her inner thought process. And beyond the words, her manner and her stage presence is so authentic and real. We cannot help but lean into her. She is raw and so utterly vulnerable. It feels less like a performance and more like a true, authentic moment that she's creating with us, and we are privileged to be witnessing it and experiencing it with her. Now, I'm not saying that the only way to tell a story is to lay it all out there like Brittany, but I am saying that peeling back a confident facade and letting your audience see something real is a critical component to relatability, whether it's a comedic story or a profoundly serious one. There is humility in great storytelling. And the next time you're about to tell a story to someone, try not to think of it as a telling. Think of it more as a sharing of a story. Because that will make them, your listener, a more active component of the exchange, and they may have a greater chance of loving your story and loving you.